I'll do it now. I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
So, what is your relationship with the divine feminine, and how has your own journey and embodiment of the femininity and the divine feminine with you evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big piece of my life and my work, and so it's almost impossible in some of these questions because they're so like intrinsic to who I am, like not to go back in time, because like my first movements with them happened very young. And so, I in my early life, I mean, before 7, I was, 4 years old or something like that. I think it's kind of adult thoughts. And one of the adult thoughts was that I'm going to be in my power, but I'm going to be in my power like a woman. I didn't even know what that meant. You know what I mean? Like, but these would be like these little nuggets that would land. And, now that I do all this meditation and stuff like that, and all the times I've gone back to my own inner child with all this like different knowledge, I'm like, okay, now I know, how all those thoughts get there. But anyway, these are some of the thoughts that like led my life, right? They're part of what guided me. And so, really though, I was taught to like diminish the feminine. And I myself as a child, like in my femininity, in my girlhood, in my being, there was a lot that was part of my early experience that showed me that being female was really not the greatest thing to be. So I actually moved into the early part of my life with like a belief that, like, as much as that original thought happened, there was another belief that was like, oh no, like I need to like do it like a man, basically. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna do all these things. So I could do everything myself. I actually learned to do absolutely everything myself, and to look at my life kind of through a much more masculine perspective. I think a lot of women were taught to do that, and I didn't even really know I was doing it. I didn't actually know, because at the time, if you had asked me, I was probably would think that I was like more negative towards the masculine while that was happening, even though I was acting it out a lot. And I went through periods of time where I completely denied my femininity. I mean, like, I'm talking about, like, I would do nothing. I didn't look in the mirror. I didn't, like, do anything in terms of my own beauty. I did as much to, like, minimize any kind of femininity in my movement, in my way of being, in my voice, in my expression. I made a point of, like, if anything was happening, that I would kind of like be the most directive energy that was present. Like, all of that was a part of my life. And I worked with these elements, and I was very very strong into the belief that, by being the strongest woman that I could possibly be, and being able to do it all, and be smart and be competent and all of those kind of things, that I was doing the job. Like, that I was really being a woman, and that changed over time. I like that belief of, like, that's what of how to do being a woman, how to be feminine, shifted over the course of my life from there were many different events that did that. And but one of the experiences that I remember in the process was, like, I would experiment with, like, I've always been someone that has been a bit of like a chameleon, in the sense that, like, you can put like a costume on me, and I sort of like become the environment. I kind of become the costume in a way. So I noticed this about myself, and I would like try different things. Like, I'd try, like, okay, well, like, let's express it like this, let's express it like that. And I would notice how the world would change in relationship to me. So I started to study how people related to certain aspects of the feminine. I became curious about it. Like, how do they feel about the warrior feminine? How do they feel about the very receptive and able to be tended to feminine? How do they feel about the negation, like the female form with the negation of the feminine? And so I started trying all of these different things and experimenting with them personally for my own understanding, and then also conceptually. And that gave me a lot of insight into the societal dynamics in relationship to the feminine. And I started to see things like, and I mean, I could really just go down one of these roads right now, but like, I started to see things like when I looked a certain way, when I represented a certain type of femininity, that like certain negative thought patterns, behaviors, and stuff like that would come out. You know, that it's just like, somebody might be more willing to lift my suitcase, but somebody might be more willing to sneer at me. That I would be more threatening in a particular environment, or more accepted in another. So I started to explore this as a way of understanding how these aspects of the feminine are treated. And in some ways I felt a lot of confusion and hurt as I went through that process. I was just like, none of this really feels right. It doesn't really feel honoring. Like, aren't we all of these things? Isn't that part of the beauty of being a woman, is to be able to have this incredible complexity and to be able to change into all these different aspects of herself, and to, as simply as changing an outfit, express an entirely different aspect of who we are? And should we ever be relegated to one simple part of that? Like, here, I see you in this one moment, and therefore I'm going to limit you to being that. And that started to change the way I interacted with women. And it's like, there's a lot of conditioning there. But I started to see and appreciate all different types of women and all different types of femininity. And I started to challenge some of my own limited perspectives. And I started to get into the places where I have envy and jealousy and uncertainty and competition. And realize that is like such a place where we need healing. I don't have answers. What I know is that there is something that's needed for us, for women in that space, to be able to learn how to communicate across the divide, to learn new ways of being with each other, to find new ways to really support the empowerment of women. And we've lost so much of that knowledge that it's confusing, it's challenging to do. And so it's like we need to work together to be able to do that. And there's a lot, there's just so much in terms of that. But I started, like, at times feeling very challenged in certain types of expression. And then I started saying, I like this. Like, I feel good like this. Like, it's more enjoyable for me to be changeable. It's more enjoyable for me to care for myself in this way, to allow a certain type of like grace of movement or type of expression, and that doesn't get rid of my fierceness. You know, I just happen to be more comfortable with my fierceness. But I think my fierceness is like a beautiful part of my femininity. And that's something that I, fought for as well. Because sometimes people would be like, well, tone it down a little bit. I'm just like, no, this fierceness is part of my beauty. It's part of my feminine wisdom. It's part of what I bring forward. Let's honor this. Because that power is such an incredibly beautiful thing, right? But also the softer side of it, which was a little more challenging for me, and to be judged in that softer side was really like something that was really difficult for me to go through, and to say, yeah, I'm still going to express this part of me. And so that was actually one of the last pieces to come forward, and one of the pieces that I still work with the most. is like every time that I allow myself to really move into the soft aspects of femininity. So I do very easily in nurturing. I'm a nurturer. I very easily move into nurturing. But there's certain other aspects of softness and vulnerability that I still work on. And I use all sorts of things. I use jewelry. I use clothes. I use my environment. I use all sorts of things to support me to nourish that part of myself so that I can bring it out. And that aspect of femininity can live in me and can live in the world. Because that's what I believe that we have an opportunity to do, to support each other and other women and in our own lives, is to learn how to weave these different aspects of the feminine into the world in the healthiest, most beautiful way possible, so that we can have that, we can benefit from all of that beauty and femininity as it, like in our day-to-day existence.